Welcome to The Explainer. We're kicking off a brand new multi-part series, and we're diving deep into the massive, pretty much hidden world of enterprise monitoring. You know, the silent engine that basically powers our entire digital lives. And in this first part, we're going to uncover a history that's, well, it's way more dramatic than you'd probably expect. I mean, just think about it for a second. Your bank account, your Netflix queue, it all depends on this incredibly complex web of technology. We're talking thousands upon thousands of servers, containers, and services all firing at the same time. So the big question is, how do we keep all of that from just falling apart? That one single question has fueled more than half a century of billion-dollar companies and innovations. And here's the thing. To really understand where we're going, with things like AI and operations and the whole future of the cloud, we first have to see this powerful, repeating pattern that has shaped this entire industry. It's this relentless cycle of innovation, then consolidation, and then, boom, disruption.
So, in this first explainer, we're going to trace the cycle through 5 pretty distinct eras. This is going to give us that big picture view, right? It'll set the stage for our future episodes, where we're going to get into the really juicy stuff, the fascinating industry battles and stories that have defined the digital world we all live in today.
Okay, so at its heart, the history of monitoring is really just a constant race against complexity. As our technology gets more and more tangled and intricate, the tools we use to understand it have to evolve right alongside it. And you can see it right here. Every single major shift in how we build computers has sparked a revolution in how we watch them. We went from managing these single, massive machines to trying to orchestrate thousands of networked servers. And now we're trying to navigate the constantly shifting, almost living landscape of the cloud. All right, our story starts in the era of those monolithic mainframes, the room-sized behemoths that were literally the lifeblood of huge corporations. And it was right here that a really pivotal government decision just unlocked a massive opportunity for a whole new kind of software company. So before this, software was just part of the deal. You bought the hardware from IBM, you got the software with it, that's it. But this one decision to unbundle them, it blew the doors wide open for innovators. For the first time, they could create tools that were way more efficient than IBM's own stuff, and they could zero in on these performance gaps in their billion-dollar systems. And this is where we see the rise of the very first pioneers, Computer Associates, or CA, and BMC Software. Both of them built billion-dollar empires by mastering just one thing, making these incredibly expensive mainframes run better. And they had totally different styles. CA's strategy was to just aggressively buy up the competition, while BMC relied on just brilliant in-house engineering. Okay, let's fast forward to the next term of the cycle. The world was shifting away from one big computer to literally thousands of smaller ones, all connected on networks. And as you could imagine, this created a completely new kind of chaos. All of a sudden, it wasn't just about the computer anymore. You had to worry about all the routers and the switches and the servers in between. So companies like HP, with their really groundbreaking OpenView platform, they stepped in to provide, for the first time ever, a visual map of this new, messy, distributed world. And this led to the era of what everyone called the Big Four. So you had the original pioneers, CA and BMC, and they were joined by the giants HP and IBM, who scooped up a company called Tivoli. They all started buying up hundreds of smaller companies, and they all made the same promise to customers: a single pane of glass, one screen to see everything. But, and this is the really crucial insight, this whole consolidation strategy had a fatal flaw. When you stitch together dozens of different products you've acquired, you end up with these monstrously complex suites that often just became shelfware. I mean, they were so difficult and expensive to actually implement that companies would buy them and then they'd just sit on a shelf, never fully used. This whole phase of the cycle really ended with these huge financial moves that just screamed stagnation. Broadcom acquired CA Technologies for almost $19 billion. And that was a super clear sign that the old guard, the incumbents, they were becoming legacy players, valued more for their steady maintenance revenue than for any real innovation. And of course, that stagnation created the absolute perfect opening for the next great architectural shift, the cloud. And this wasn't just a small change. No, this was a fundamental reinvention of how applications are built and run from the ground up. The old approach of just, watching a fixed server just couldn't keep up. It was totally obsolete. In the cloud, you've got containers and services that might pop into existence, do a job, and then disappear, all within a few seconds. The old tools were completely blind to this new super dynamic world.
See, the old world was all about what we call monitoring. You'd set an alert for a problem you already knew to look for. Something like, hey, warn me when this server's CPU hits 80%. These are what we call the known knowns, the problems you can anticipate ahead of time.
But in today's cloud apps, with hundreds of interconnected microservices, the biggest threats are the problems you can't predict, the weird stuff. And that's where observability comes in. It's this power to explore your system's data and ask brand new questions on the fly to hunt down these unknown unknowns, the problems you never ever saw coming. And this, right here, represents a massive cultural shift. We're moving away from software that's managed by IT teams in a data center that's on-premise to cloud-based SaaS platforms. But maybe the biggest change is who's using these tools. They're now designed for the developers and the site reliability engineers, the people who are actually building the applications. It's a fundamental change in mindset. This, of course, created the opening for a whole new generation of cloud-native disruptors. Companies like Datadog, New Relic, and a completely reinvented Dynatrace. They built their tools from scratch for this new reality, and they left the old Big Four just scrambling to try and catch up. So this brings us to today. And what's really fascinating is that if you look closely, you can see that exact same cycle starting to repeat itself all over again. On one side, you've got disruption. There's this powerful open source project called OpenTelemetry that is absolutely changing the game. The idea is brilliant and simple. You collect data from your apps just one time, and then you can send it to any tool you want. This stops you from getting locked into a single vendor, and it forces companies to compete on how good their insights are, not just on their ability to grab your data. And then on the other hand, you guessed it, we have consolidation. Major players are making enormous acquisitions, like Cisco buying Splunk for $28 billion. Now, does that pattern of market consolidation sound a little familiar? It should. It's the exact same strategic move the Big Four made decades ago. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative question, right? As today's disruptors become the new establishment, the new incumbents, is that cycle of innovation, consolidation, and disruption just beginning once more? We're going to explore that exact question and a whole lot more in our upcoming explainers, where we'll dive deep into the fascinating stories that have shaped this industry. Thanks for watching.